This is how to use Flask templates using render template. I'm recording the audio after I've made the video because I find it easier to do that in case things are not in sync. So I'm going to create a new branch using Git to do this, just called templates. And then we're going to use the Flask templating to start improving this application so that templates can be used. So just standard HTML templates. The best place to look for this is the Flask project documentation on templating. You'll find lots of resources and tutorials online as well, but to be honest, the best place is to go directly to the source because they have a really good user guide on how to do the basics. Okay, so the key function we need to use is the render template function, and we give that function a HTML template, and inside that template we can add variables which get rendered to the page. So to start with, we're just going to create a pretty standard index.html file. And by default, Flask expects all of your templates to be inside a folder called templates. So now we're just going to put a standard bootstrap HTML template inside this file. Okay, so Git has noticed obviously that we've made a change to the app.py, and also we've got that new folder which is called templates, which has our initial template in. At the moment we've got everything in one template, but eventually you'll see how we can split that up and have the header and footer section with the content in the middle. And we do that so that we don't have to keep repeating the same information at the same time. So for example, the header normally stays the same, and we don't want to have to change that on many different pages. So we just have it once, and then we can edit it once in one place. So I'm just running the Flask application now. Earlier I did pip install-r requirements, and that causes Python to download all of the dependencies for the project. Oh, I've already got another Flask application running in the background, address already in use. If you see that, it means you've already got Flask running somewhere else. You just need to stop that and then run the application again. By default, Flask listens on port 5000, and the 127.0.0 is called your local host address, which means your local computer. Great, so now we've got the hello world, which is in the index HTML template we've got. Title tag, that's what appears at the top of the title on your web browser, but it's not on the page, it's just the tab. Okay, I'm going to use one of the Bootstrap templates so that the page starts to look a little bit better and has some sort of layout. So this starter template looks pretty good. We can use this as a starting template. We're going to have a home page and an about page. Some of the information in here we won't need, so we can just delete it, but the general structure is quite nice, so we're going to use this as an example. Okay, so I've replaced that now entirely with that sample. I can see there's some links here to docs and files that I don't have on my computer, so I'm going to delete all of these because we don't need them. Okay, so that's deleted most of the information that we don't need. We can see that we've not got the styles, so we need to make sure that we've got the CSS as well. So the one that we copied earlier was referencing a file that they have on their web server, but by using this we can access a CSS file which is hosted elsewhere. And you see now it's starting to come together. I'm going to remove some of these links from the navigation bar because we only want the home and the about page. Just copying over the JS as well. There we go. Excellent. So I'm just going to check now that the page is working as expected. I can see we've got some 404s here from the template that we copied over. So it's still referencing some files that we don't have and we don't need. So I'm going to work out which ones we need to delete based on those requests. I'm just going to view source on this one. Yeah, starter template. So on there we've got that CSS that we need to copy over onto our styles to improve the padding at the top. I'm just going to sort out the indentation on here. It's really frustrating if the things are out of alignment. Gosh, this is a bit fiddly. There we go, got there eventually. Okay, so I'm just going to verify now that I've got that padding sorted out. Yes, much better. Okay. Yep, and the drop-down's working fine. That means that the JavaScript is loading okay. I can still see we've got 4 errors on the console, so I might sort those out as well. Yeah, in the meantime, I'm just going to remove the search bar because I don't want that, and I'm just going to get rid of some of the additional page elements, some of the additional navigation links that I don't really want. Disabled, there it is. So I'm going to get rid of that disabled one and also the drop down. There we go, slowly getting to where we want to be. And now we can start changing the links to the pages that we actually want to use. Okay, and now we're going to hook things up. So by default, when we started this project, we just had the one route, and that was taken from the Flask Quick Start Guide. Now we're adding an additional route, which is when people go to /about, we want to render the about.html page. So now we've got 2 templates. Well, we haven't actually created that one yet. So let's see what happens when we try to go to there. We'll probably get a template not found error or something like that. Go into the About link, open a new page. As expected, we get the template not found error. That's because we've not created the template file yet. So about.html. And just to start with, we're going to copy the entire file into the about.html. Now, this is obviously not going to be very scalable because imagine if you had 10 different pages, you're going to have to copy and paste this again and again and again. So eventually what I'll show you is how to break this template up into different parts. So you have the head at the top, the content in the middle, and the footer at the bottom. But for now, just to get things starting and learn how things work, we can do a bit of repetition and then improve it later. So we've got the about page and the index page. It's going to change the title so we can tell the difference between the two pages. So we've got the home page and the about page. Oh, they both say the same thing. I need to correct the link. The home page link is not correct. There we go. So the / means go to the home page, or the root. It's also known as the root directory. Excellent. And now when we hover over there, we're going to the right pages. Excellent. So that's the basics of Flask render templates. You create a template, normally a .html file. You create a root for it by doing the @app. And then you have to reload the application if you've not got Flask debug on, and then you can view the page and render the template. It's that simple. So now I'm going to add these changes to the Git repo, and I'm going to commit them as a work in progress. So the code is going to be uploaded and available on the GitHub website. Okay, now we're going to git push origin templates. And now I'm going to merge that change. I'm going to merge that branch into the main branch. And we can see now we've got that change history. By doing git log, we can see the different changes that we've been making. And if we head over to GitHub, we can see that we've got that change and it's been merged in. Now I skipped the pull request step. Normally you can create a pull request and view the changes before you merge them, but I've actually already done that by doing the Git Rebase. But there's no harm in doing it again just to show the process. And it's recommended to do git commits often because you can go back in time, and if you manage to create lots of commits step by step, it's a lot easier to go back and fix something than if you create one commit every 3 hours, for example. You start to lose work if you don't do that, if you ever want to go back in time and see how you did things previously. So I encourage you to do git commits. If you're new to Git, then practice, but doing lots of commits is generally recommended, especially if you're working on a new feature. Okay, I'm just going to force this as a merge pull request, confirm the merge. And now that's gone into the main branch. So if we look at the code, look at the history on the commits, we can see now we've got those. The initial Flask quit start, added the render template example, and then we merged it in. So because those changes happened on GitHub, I'm going to fetch them down to make sure that we're in sync. So we're synchronizing our local copy with the copy that is on GitHub. And remember that GitHub is just another place to store Git repos. There's also Bitbucket, there's also GitLab. GitHub is just one of the popular ones, but there's no difference between the two in terms of a Git repo. You can take your Git repo from GitHub and store it somewhere else if you want to. Okay, so now let's deploy that. We're going to go to segfault.app and paste the HTTP copy of the repo, and then we can see that the application is working and we can run it live on a real web address with a certificate. So that address will work on any computer because it's hosted on a server. Brilliant, so that seems to be working fine. So that's the basics of using Flask render templates. You can copy that same repo and use that for your own project to experiment and learn. What I'm going to do now is show you how to break up that template into different parts so it's more reusable. And just as before, the Flask documentation is a great place to start because it gives you an example of how to break up the template into multiple parts. I'm just trying to find the part right now. It can be a bit hard to find, but if you know it's there, it's worth looking for. Oh, I've just gone back to the same place. Now I know that it uses the extends keyword. So I'm going to search for that. Yes, there it is, template inheritance. So much of programming is about finding the documentation, or if it's your own program, then writing the documentation is incredibly important. A lot of the reason that some projects are successful is purely because they have good documentation. My personal view is Stripe for payments is very popular because of its documentation compared to PayPal, which isn't as good for its documentation. Okay, great. So template inheritance, we have layout.html, and this will store the overall structure of the entire document. It will have the head, the body, and the footer. And we will use variables to inject the content into the middle. So rather than using the template that's on Flask documentation, I'm replacing it with the one that we created earlier, but I'm keeping some of the parts. So on line 4, where we have the block head, and line 7, block end, that's the head that will be injected onto every page. And because we want the Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript on every page, we're keeping that there too. And we're wanting to change the title every time as well, so we have a variable for the block title, and that will allow us to change the title on every different page. Notice how we have a block start and an end block for each. Now I think that you can do an end block, the name of the end block, but actually I realised that that's an error later on in the video. So you do have to remove the word head at the end. Okay. So now I'm just working out which part of the template we want to build out. So we're going to remove the head bit because we've already done that. And now we're going to copy in the navigation because we always want the navigation to go in at the top as well. And then if you imagine what's going to happen, Flask is going to then assemble all of these different parts into one complete page. And that's the inheritance aspect of this. So on line 46 at the moment, that's where the content, the body of each individual page will get injected. So we're putting all of the common elements in layout.html, and then we'll have separate pages for the content. So I'm just making sure that these tags get closed. So on 64 we've got the opening tag for the main element, and now on 67 we've got the closing tag for the main element. And in the middle is where we're going to inject the content. I'm just trying to tidy up the indentation here of the navigation bar. Okay, and now we can start doing the footer. Excellent. So we're putting the JS at the bottom. So that will be the last thing to load. Okay, I think we're almost ready to go. So we've ripped apart our initial index.html because we don't want to keep repeating that for every different page that we have. The only content that we want inside index.html or in every page is just the content. There we go. And now this is the child template. And you can see at the very top we use the word extends. So the extends means that it's going to take the content of layout.html and inject it into this page. And the body on line 13, where we've got content, that gets injected into the layout.html. So those blocks have their particular name. So we've got a head block on line 7 and we've got a content block on line 13. And that's how Flask knows where to inject the different parts. It's actually Ginger, sorry, it's not Flask. This template is called the Ginger templating language. Oh, battery low. Sorting out the end block here. So we have an end block, but we don't have the start, I think. Oh no, it's where I put the head. I didn't need the head. Excellent, let's fix that error. Okay, so now we can see that the index.html is a lot simpler. It's just got the content in that is to do with that page. So we're going to do the same thing for the about page. The only content that is needed inside each page is to extend the layout.html and then put a block for the content. So we've reduced the amount of duplication that happens in our templates. There we go. Pretty good. So if you wanted to change the CSS that gets injected at the top, you only have to change that in one location in layout.html. Doing a little review of the code before we commit this and push it to GitHub. Okay, yeah, it's just easier to see which page is which when we have different text on each one. And that's pretty much it. That's the concept. So you have a common layout HTML, you extend it on your individual pages, and you've reduced the duplication. What year are we in? 2021. Hopefully the end of COVID. How are we doing for time? 11 minutes. Okay, so I removed the JS because we don't actually use the drop-down menu anymore. So removing code that's not used will make your web page load faster. The less bits and bytes that you send, the faster the website will be to load. Notice now on line 2 we've set the title tag, and that's changing the tab name at the top. So we're able to inject a different title in each page. There we go. My Flask app. Excellent. So now we can commit that. We're going to commit the about and index.php, and then we've got a new file, the templates layout.html. And this time I'm going to do a proper pull request. So this branch is going to be called the, what shall I call it, template extend. Okay, so I think I've done the commit already. Now I'm going to push that as a new branch to GitHub. Oh yes, I forgot to do the commit. Here we go. Excellent. Now let's do a git push and push that up to the Git repo. And from there we can create a pull request to merge that code into the main branch. There we go. And GitHub has already noticed that we've pushed that new branch, and it's asking us, do we want to create a pull request, which we do. I'm going to add a nice description so I remember what happened. Link to the documentation as well, just in case, because it was hard to find. Okay, and this time I'm going to do a rebase in merge, and the result of that is you end up with a nice cleaner history. So when you look at the history, you don't get a merge commit in the middle. I'll just show you what that means. So if we go back to the code tab and then click on commits, we can see that we don't have that merge pull request anymore. We've just got that single commit and the log that we wrote. So now let's make that live. So we're going to copy the HTTPS link to the repo and then just go to segfault and host the website. Cool. So at the moment we haven't published it, so we've got the old site. So now I'm going to go to segfault and load the new site. There we go. Give it a good refresh. Excellent. And that's it. It's now loading the extended templates. And if you wanted to add another page to that, it's just very simple. You would add another page which extends the layout.html. And it's just much more maintainable. Check the battery. Just noticed something that doesn't need to be included that's included. That starter template.html is from the Bootstrap example that we don't need, so I'll remove that and just quickly get rid of that to demonstrate. So I'm going to go back onto the main branch. I think I first have to commit this change actually. There we go. Good old typo. Fixed it. There we go. Now we do Git Rebase. First we're going to fetch the changes from GitHub, do a Git Rebase onto the main branch. So that means it's putting all the changes from the main branch and applying them onto our current branch so that they are now effectively in sync. It's all about keeping the branches in sync. Oh, I made a bit of a mess here, so I'm gonna force push this branch. Not recommended, because if you have multiple developers working on the same branch, a force push can cause other developers to lose their work. So if you're working with other developers on the same branch, do not use force push. Otherwise, it's a very effective strategy. Excellent. So to publish that, we can merge that change in, and there's the removal. So we need to commit that as a merge request, creating a pull request, rebase and merge, checking the time, and that's now merged into the main branch. Fantastic, and that's good to publish and host. So just go to segfault, and we'll paste in the repo address, the HTTPS repo address. Give it a few seconds, and now hopefully that error will be gone. Yes, on the right hand side now we've got rid of that not found error, and that's how to do it. So that was using Flask templates, a render template, and template inheritance using Ginger 2 and Flask.